Let's go over the next chapter, chapter 6. As if Felipe's fainting spell wasn't bad enough, Juan Can tried to take over Felipe's job. He ended up falling down, broke his leg. It would take a good 3 months to heal since he was old. Alessandra ended up staying at the rancho to do the work of Felipe, Juan Can, and his job as well. Plus, Senora wanted him to stay by Felipe's side to keep him company. Alessandro's singing helped break the fever that took over Felipe's mind, and Felipe was finally able to sleep soundly. Senora, Father Salviadera, and Ramona kept the vigil in Felipe's room. With Alessandro staying at the ranch, he used the downtime to talk with Father Salviadera. When Felipe asked Father, when Alessandro asked the father whether or not Felipe will recover, the father replied in the affirmative. The first attack is always the worst, however, no one has ever died from it. At this time, Father asked Felipe whether or not Alessandro whether or not a priest goes to Temecula. Alessandro replied once or twice a year, and the funeral if they have enough funds. Father was disappointed when he heard about money being a determining factor. The father said that he would go to Temecula more often if the priest loved their order. Alessandro replied that he wished the father would visit more often. His father would be glad to see him. His father talks about how things used to be, and very sad and in great fear of the village. The land commission buys land from the Mexicans, drives away the Indians. The land commission says that the Indians do not have any rights to the land. The father asked whether or not the courts have called his father. Alessandro replied negative. Father said that there must be some paper before they can do anything, otherwise they're not in any danger. Alessandro asked how there could be any danger when Senor Valdez gave them his word that they get to keep their land forever. The father asked whether or not Senor Valdez gave them any paper. Alessandro replied negative. The father replies that all the lands in the missions have been taken. He has a small faith in the land commission. He thinks that they would take all they can. The church has suffered a lot of loss. Alessandro said that all that is left are a garden and an orchard. He asked if the church and the Mexicans can't keep their lands, what can the Indians do? By this time, the sheep shearing has been completed. The men just stood around. 2 mutton were sacrificed, and Marta made some frijoles. At this time, Alessandro called for a vote for the next captain, since Juan Can is still convalescing. The men were upset. Alessandro explained the father wants him to stay at this rancho. Of course, the real reason that he must wait is because he has to wait for Juan Can to make a full recovery. Alessandro's father was not happy that his son would stay at the rancho. His father needed help keeping his men away from the people who sells whiskey to the Indians, encouraged all sorts of disturbance. Alessandro had a duty at Temecula when they have the annual festival, so Alessandro promised his father he would come home in time for that festival. The vote for the next captain happened quickly. Fernando was the previous captain, but he stepped down because he's getting old. He doesn't like having to get up and walk around during the first half of the night to keep every person on task. However, for the next few weeks, he will not complain. Alessandro reminded the men, Senor is a good friend of theirs. The job of sheep shearing is guaranteed, as long as the least they can do is help them out. They rolled up their blankets, collected the saddles, caught their ponies, and drove up to the shed. Ramona stopped them. She said they haven't eaten dinner. She insisted that they stay at least for dinner. Alessandro said it's a 6-hour drive to Ortega. They're already running behind. Ramona said dinner will be ready in 1 hour. Alessandro said they would set them back at least 2 hours. However, moreover, they haven't eaten since breakfast. So the men were happy to eat dinner. They smoked, chatted, and laughed. Juan Can was upset that the men not eating while he's bedridden. Although he called for Margarita, she was swooning over Alessandro. Alessandro was oblivious to the fact that Margarita stole glasses in his direction whenever she could. After the food was served, they ate within an hour. Then they rode to the next rancho. However, Alessandro pulled Jose aside, paid him to make a side trip to Temecula to get Alessandro's violin. At this time, Antonio told Alessandro his horse is faster. Alessandro replied, "Next time." Comments, constructive criticisms, asking for clarification, let me know, and I shall go over the next chapter in a couple of days. Take care.